And just another little note-keeping thing here. After this session is over, I need the rep from Speed Sport up because we're going to be giving away the award for Facility of the Year after this segment here. So whoever my Speed Sport rep is, you'll be appearing at the microphone here after this section. And this one is our fourth session of the day, called It's All About Off-Road Motorsports. Oh my goodness, one of my favorite things, because the men and women who compete in off-road motorsports are just a little off, and maybe that's why I can relate to them so much. But the events that are represented up here on the stage, magnificent, some of the best from the off-road, and I like to call it, because we've got rallycross up here, specialty events as well, in addition to off-road. So we want to start off, and this is a little bit different because not only do I want you to introduce yourself, but I want you to mention your facility, your series, or the events that you host, because you might be a little bit new to some folks here in the room. So we're going to start out with you, Marty.
Yeah, okay. My name is Marty Fiocca. I am the promoter at PRI International Raceway. It's a pleasure to be here in front of a mainstream motorsports crowd. My background does include IndyCar, though, and sports car racing, so I'm not completely alien out there. But PRI International Raceway hosts the largest short course off-road race in the world. Over Labor Day weekend, we've been around for 54 years, and it's been a pleasure to kind of see it grow, and with the inflection now of corporate sponsorship with Red Bull and some others, it's become a bigger event. Is this working? You guys hear me? Yep. So, hold on, let me fix that. Or at least I'll try to fix it. Try this one. How's that better? Oh, now I can hear myself. Let me go back if you didn't hear me. Anyway, real quickly, my name is Marty Fiocca. I am the promoter at PRI International Raceway in Wisconsin. It's the oldest and largest off-road short course race in the world. We just finished our 54th year, Labor Day weekend, with the Polaris World Championship and the Red Bull World Cup. Just to real quickly, had about 60,000 fans, about 400 race teams, about 29 hours of live streaming, 9 hours of network through Speed Sport, Racer, and MAV TV. And it's an honor to be here for me because I'm coming back home again to Indiana. I did do a bunch of time at the Speedway working with IndyCar and sports car racing, so it's nice to kind of interject a little bit of off-road into today's seminar, so I appreciate it.
Crandon was always on my bucket list when I started covering motorsports, and I was not disappointed when I got up to Crandon. What an amazing facility that is up there. All right, Matt, you're next up.
Awesome. I'm Matt Martelli from the Mint 400. For those of you who don't know what the Mint 400 is, how many of you here have either seen the movie or read the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? Right? A couple, right? So that was actually Hunter's assignment, was partially to cover the Mint 400 race back in the 70s. So it is the same race. So we bought the race 12 years ago and resurrected it, and have grown it into the largest off-road race in North America. We have average about 400 teams, about 60,000 spectators, and we're racing on a 100-mile loop just outside of Las Vegas that is some of the nastiest terrain in the entire Mojave Desert. So the challenge of just finishing, we have about a 50% attrition rate, is paramount.
And that's one of those events that racers from all different kinds of motorsports, that's the one that they want on their bucket list.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the unique things about off-road desert racing is in the same race, you will have everything from a Class 11, which is a relatively stock VW Bug, all the way up to a trophy truck, which is more or less like our F-16 of off-road racing.
Unbelievable event. I've interviewed many of the drivers who have taken part in the Mint 400, and that's one of their favorite events of the year by far. All right, Chip, you're next up.
I noticed you didn't give me a microphone. Chip Henke, General Manager of Nitro Rallycross. For those of you that don't know, Rallycross, it's A and B segment vehicles, high horsepower, between 600 to 1,000 horsepower. Our typical tracks are quite short, 2 kilometers or less, and all usually have a hybrid surface, so tarmac and gravel. At Nitro, with working closely with Travis Pastrana, we've added big bank turns, some pretty massive jumps. Nitro Rallycross started out in 2018 and 2019 as really a demonstration event as part of Nitro World Games. And then in 2021, we did a half season with internal combustion vehicles, kind of a COVID season. And then this year in 2022, a full season globally, so in Europe and in North America. We're still going on our season, and we're getting ready to do something brand new, which is a full race on snow and ice. So I'm about to go get cold in Quebec next month.
Your races are insane, but it's why we love tuning in.
They are, and Travis is kind of our main lunatic, and I'm sure some of you have maybe seen his latest Gymkhana, which I think in the last 24 hours is over 2.5 million views, and it just shows what I have to deal with every day.
All right, Jason.
It's working, I think. There's a power button.
Operator.
We got it.
Technical things, you know.
Jason Robinette, American Off-Road Events, American Outdoor Events. We have programs from a resort that's off-road park resort that's called Mid-America Outdoors, located in the central United States in Jay, Oklahoma. We hold several different races, several different styles there, everything from hill climb races, the American Pro Rock Racing Series, which we own, the Ultra 4 USA, which is a traveling series across the country. It's one of the harder races that are out there. The first race of the year is always King of the Hammers out in Johnson Valley, California. We have several things at our park different events that we host. We actually are going to be hosting this year the Nitro Rallycross series coming there. We're building a brand new track that consists of dirt and asphalt, multiple layers there, and then we have the ISOC series, the AMSOIL Championship Series. Their national finals will be there this year as well at the end of the year. We also run our regional short course race. Billy Champion back here, the race director there. Pretty sure my Ultra 4 race director is right back over there. And we're getting very involved in pretty much everything off-road from more of a standpoint of pulling it together and working with multiple layers of off-roading. Look forward to being a bigger part of these programs like this and all these programs these guys have. So, thank you.
All right, so our first question here, we're going to go right down the group here, but I'm going to start off with Marty on this one. We're seeing such growth in off-road and the rallycross segment, and I'm not really sure what it is all about, but there's no doubt you're seeing a lot of growth, and you're getting a lot of excitement across a pretty wide demographic as well, I think. What factors are driving this growth? Is it technology, media, lifestyle? Is it having manufacturers involved? What are the keys to your success? And we'll start off with you, Marty.
Well, I can tell you, having been around, like I said, a bunch, when I first brought some IndyCar guys, some drivers, Roberto Guerrero and the Groffs, and some of those guys, Jimmy Vasser, down to Baja with me, and they raced. The thing that was obvious was that they thought it was just badass racing, flat out. You know, it's for, you know, in odd desert racing, it's 1,000 miles of different corners and jumps and dust, and short course, it's 1,000 horsepower, 6-speed gearbox, Pro 4s, sideways 100 miles an hour going into Crandon. I think that's there's a dynamic, there's a three-dimensional part of it with the way those things work. But I think it's deeper than that. I think the sport's 55 years old. but I always call it the evergreen locomotive. It is youth-driven still. You know, the one thing that this panel doesn't have to worry about as much is necessarily keeping youth involved, because it is so dynamic, and because also the portal that's opened up because of side-by-sides, where you can now go to the dealership and access a vehicle that, when I started, I had to go buy a race car. We couldn't even go to Baja and tour. That didn't exist. You had to go buy a car. And with that, combined with things like with the Ford Bronco, the Ford Raptor, now you have long travel, trucks that you can buy, bypass shocks, which were developed off-road, and for ranchers and guys, all of a sudden this off-road world becomes more accessible. So I think in terms of the overall market, that's what I've been in it a long time, but that's what I keep seeing is it just always is dynamic. It's also very unrestricted in terms of the rules. A lot of classes there are no rules, which means you can develop anything you want. And if you take one of the trophy trucks that are here, I think that one of the McMillan's all-wheel drive $1 million trophy trucks, and you take it and park it down, in Monaco, in a Formula One race, the fans are one thing, but all the engineers and all those guys that do nothing but work on carbon fiber would look at those things and go, holy crap, what is that thing? I mean, literally, they're $1 million where they have 6-speed X-Track gearboxes, 1,300 horsepower Joe Gibbs motors. They run 1,000 miles in the desert, all-wheel drive. I mean, it's all the spectrum, plus stock Volkswagens. So it can be all of it, but I think that's a big part of it.
Matt.
I'm going to pick on Matt. Do you want him to answer that?
Yes,
I want to
please.
pick on him after. I'm going to pick on you after that, Matt.
Bring it on. Listen, I would agree with Marty. I think it's a lot of things. It's very cumulative. Content media has definitely helped us, right? Because we've had a challenge in the past where, our predecessors had network deals and that went away. And so there was a period in the late 80s, early 90s where, we stepped on the gas in terms of content, and that helped raise visibility. And then, of course, all of our teams and fans and so on and so forth, we have very little restrictions from that standpoint, and that's benefited us. On top of that, like Marty was talking about, the technology advances, off-road vehicles becoming more popular, starting with the Raptor, and that becoming a narrative in American culture. And we've seen, truck and Jeep and SUV sales rise. And then we got the biggest gift we could have ever asked for, COVID. And it forced everybody to go outside, and we're Americans, and so we're not going to go hiking, right? God forbid, right? That's sacrilegious. We're going to load our family into a car, and we're going to drive. And I think, what happened was a lot of people realize what we have within 20 miles of where they live. We get trained into this we got to fly to Europe, we got to go to these places, and it's actually, 20 miles this way, there's some bitchin' stuff, and you can take your family and have a great experience and be out in nature. We've also had a couple other magical gifts. One of them being the UTV. I mean, I can't talk more about how important this is. This is a complete paradigm shift, not just for us, but for you guys. And I would really encourage you guys to all look at UTVs as a platform and how you can integrate them, because we've never had a race vehicle that you could walk into a dealership and buy. We started a class a few years ago called the Rally class, which is just that. You literally go buy a stock UTV, you cage it, put all the safety equipment on, and you're racing with us, right? And you're racing the same course that Rob McCachran is racing in a trophy truck. So you're having, a very similar visceral experience. And now, that class has grown. It's our biggest class. At the Mint, we have about 180 UTV racers, and it's still growing. So that was a massive gift to us. And then the other thing that happened was within that, there were these kids' cars created, these Razor 170s, which were actually meant to be toys. And, I looked right at the engineers at Polaris, and I'm like, we're going to race these. And they're like, no, these aren't race cars. I'm like, look, you may not know what parents do, but it's not up to us. They're going to go. They're going to put their kids in these cars, and they're going to race. And so 6 years ago, at one of our races, UTV World Championship, we created youth racing. And so now we have kids beginning at 6 years old, racing with us, right? And it's just completely blown up. And it's been a very interesting 6 years. It's my most difficult class and most difficult group to manage. Imagine soccer moms, but with motorsports, right? But it's really cool because it guarantees our future, and we've actually had the first wave of these kids cross over into being more professionals. And one of them last year won Dakar in the UTV class at 20 years old. So imagine, you started driving at 6, and now you're racing and beating the best in the world, and you're only 20 years old. That gives us a really long shelf life with those athletes. So some of it's been luck, a lot of it's been hard work, but we'll take those gifts and we'll leverage them as much as we can.
Jason.
Please.
Yeah. What Matt's saying is absolutely right. The growth in the future is these kids and these youth programs. That's mainly what our park at Mid-America Outdoors actually is. We're kind of that starting level of the families and the introduction into the lifestyle. And multiple things, multiple avenues that advantages for these families, not just the kids, but the husbands, wives, and the families. We talk about all the time that, a lot of these races, when I first started going to them, it was just the men out there working on the cars. If the wives were there, the kids were there, they were chasing the kids around. And now we're seeing these programs evolve to bringing the whole family and the whole lifestyle into it. It's not just about the racing. It's more of a culture and more of a lifestyle there. And that's one of the things that our programs try to bring into it, and these guys as well. They all just work hand in hand with each other.
Chip, I'm going to change this up a little bit for you. I wouldn't consider myself in the prime demographic for your audience, but when I've gone to events of yours, I'm hooked, man. It's short attention span racing for the younger generation. But man, the rock guy in me just came out. I just love the whole entertainment aspect of your events. It was great.
Yeah, and we're trying to continue to bring more of that in. We're trying to bring more nitro. We're trying to bring more of the circus into nitro and make it a kind of a 360-degree entertainment event. For us, it is it's just that. I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about Rallycross is Chase Elliott just came out and raced our last race with us at Phoenix. I just talked to him the other day, and he was like, I just love it because it's all the stuff I always want to do in a car, but I'm not allowed to. And I think that kind of the fans see that, we were talking before. It's like we're kind of pitching ourselves to a younger audience because that is our audience. But to what Jason was saying, we're seeing more and more families coming, and they come. They make an afternoon of it. The kids have a great time. We've set up an area so the kids can kind of hang out. We've introduced gel blasters into our paddock. I don't know if that was a good idea or not, but it even comes right down to our telecast. Our telecast, the creator of the telecast, it's much faster cut. It's almost a TikTok cut, and to make sure that we're matching up with the demographic and they're happy. I'm glad it's working for you too.
First, I have to pause and chuckle because when you said the rocker in you, Dennis, can all of you imagine Dennis with hair? And I just imagine him like,
No.
I just had this image in my head. I'm like, oh wow, I would have loved this.
I could do the big,
Okay, so thanks for bringing out the
I had
rocker.
hair at one point, and it was quite long, but that's another story.
The question I'm going to ask is really to stay on topic. I have a different question, and I haven't forgotten. I'm going to pinpoint you there, Matt. But we talk about demograph, right? And one of you mentioned, hey, it's nice to be here with mainstream motorsports and introduce off-roading. You kind of alluded to it just now. It seems like somewhat of a mystery where I've been in many conversations of how do we attract the younger demographic, and you guys are doing that. Right? And you kind of alluded to some of those things. Would you say what you just mentioned is really the pinnacle of what has attracted the younger demographic and kept it?
I mean, I think you have to, when you take a look at it, you have to look at the entire sport from competition structure. You know, I mean, we don't have a race that's longer than 6 laps. So it's fast, it's winners and losers. You know, it's a little bit like American Idol that way. It's like you kind of come up, you have your chance to win. If you don't win, well, you get a second chance someplace. It's very fast-paced, but you go right down through all the creative of what you do from a media standpoint. I mean, we have so many different content channels that we have to address right now. So linear TV is still really important for manufacturers and for our sponsors, particularly sponsors that have agencies that have to do evaluation. Then we have our live stream that sits out there. That goes to a completely different audience, and usually a much younger audience. Then we have all our social clips that happen, and then when you start to aggregate all those things, that's when we really start to get to some critical mass. But we have to be on point with the creative for that. Otherwise, it doesn't work with the demographic. The reason this is so important for us and why we make a big effort for it is, number one, we know that's what our sponsors want, but number two, we also know that's where the market is going. If you look over the next 20 months, there's going to be 34 nameplates that are going to be introduced as mid-priced EVs. The automotive world is about to change and have its biggest change it's ever had, and we've kind of positioned ourselves to be there. In 2022, this season, our top class went all electric. So they're 1,070 horsepower electric vehicles, and there's very much a strategy, and it's not kind of the greenwashing, tree-hugging environmental strategy that we're doing. We don't want to jam it down people's throat. I think there's some other series that do a good job with that, but they're talking to the 5% that already really care about the environment. We want to talk to the other 95% that it's maybe not their first priority, but when they come out to one of our races and they see this thing, and it's a monster, it's 1,000 horsepower, they might leave and be like, you know what, I never considered an electric vehicle, but I might now, because it's badass and it's fast.
Just out of the performance. Just curious if any of you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that translates, and I've been at this in the off-road space for my whole life, essentially, but what translates and seems to translate all the time is that it's like in this room, like this group up here is a little fringy. It's a little rebellious. It's a little out, it's just kind of more of a rebellion outlaw kind of thing in a sense. And I think that still has kind of universal appeal when some of the motorsports I see is really overly sanitized, right? It's like so sanitized, like if I ever see another commercial with a guy in a driving suit at a 7-Eleven, I'm going to just throw, it's not how life can be, right? I mean, honestly. So there's something really rebellious for the drivers, for the fans. I see it at Crandon all the time. It's a whole kind of a bit of a counterculture-y, a little bit away from the overly cleaned up environment. It's because, not just because it's in the dirt, it's because the nature of where the sport started in Baja and where it's kind of gone. It's always, but for a lot of people like me, and I see that for our sponsors, I see that for our fans, I see that for our racers, that little edgy part of it and having unlimited rules in a sense also kind of speak to that, right? Where it's not this overly conditioned corporate thing that's on top of you.
Dennis with his long hair rocking out.
Yeah, that was not a good visual.
Yeah.
Just saying, but honestly, I think if you look at it, I think that's where I think our messaging has to be a little rebellious. It's a little bit like that, it's a little Old West style, still kind of cowboyish. It has.
I'd love to see those cross conversations between the mainstream motorsports and you guys, and how we can marry the two together and learn from each other.
Yeah, it's not intended as anything disrespectful, but
Absolutely.
It just is what it is. And having been around so long, that seems to be still the appeal to a lot of people that come in and see it for the first time.
Well, the other thing I want to add too, and specifically with not just with rally, but also with Formula D, with drifting, is like these are tied to youth culture through action sports, right? I come from action sports, and we have a different way of speaking to our audience. We speak to them as peers. We don't speak down to them. We're not pitching them. We're not, they know, back when we were doing skate videos, it was a giant commercial. But we don't have to tell those kids, hey, buy this shoe. They're going to see it, and they're going to figure it out, and they're going to purchase that shoe because it's on their favorite athlete, it looks cool, all the reasons that are already there. So I think that's a big part of it too, is that, and that's where, these guys have Superman, aka, Travis Pastrana, who supercharges the property, right? And he lives it and breathes it, and it's totally authentic, right? So nobody can look at their property and go, oh, yeah, you know, I don't really relate to those guys, and, you know, so on and so forth. It's like when you have characters that are truly integrated like Travis, they're bringing their entire audience and they're speaking in a completely organic way. It's really powerful.
It's just like you mentioned Chase, right? He came out and he's like, this is the way I always wanted to drive. I think I understand what you're saying about kind of the Wild West, the crazy side of it, where it allows different people to tap into it.
Yeah, just one quick thing. Again, I kind of keep going back to the creative, and I know you know this part. It's like when we're doing the show, we're like, you know what, we're gonna, rather than putting typical pit reporter in there, we're gonna put Street Bike Tommy in. So he's a guy from Nitro Circus. And as Travis says, he's not called Street Bike Tommy because he's good at riding a street bike. He's part of the culture. And car culture is really, really important here. You know, I go to, you know, Formula Drift events. I love the sport, and the crossover with car culture is really important. You know, I come from California, and I mean, they have to shut down Cars and Coffee because they get so big now. And it's going to be very, very interesting. It's like Cars and Coffee people and motorsport people are different crowds, but they don't have to be.
I agree.
No, I love sitting back and listening to these guys talk because I'm the new guy here, and I'm the guy that gives them opportunity to go play on everything that they do. So it's actually kind of an honor to be up here with you guys and listen to how you see that vision, because it helps me translate what I need to do as park owners and as the guy that facilitates that, because my whole vision with what we're trying to do is create that relatable experience to the audience members that come in, and basically have an event that actually holds races in the background, and create that whole lifestyle. And what you're saying is just, I'm learning right here with you guys, just sitting up here with this panel. So
Jason's being very humble. First man to put a lazy river in at a racetrack, and that is why we're going there.
Yeah, you got to understand, Jason's vision is a 1,600-acre off-road park with like 600 RV spots. I mean, this is like Disneyland for off-road. This is not some little thing he built.
they're talking about Pastrana and his brain. I literally have a house out there now for him and his team to come out there. And the track that we're in the middle of building, the different things that we're doing, we're going from asphalt to dirt to just the most insane jumps, you know, with the Nitro Circus field, just that different, the pump tracks, the different things that we have. Been working with Von Gittin Jr. We're putting in a drift track. We're putting in, you know, a kids drift track. We've got the RC tracks. It's just the whole experience is just bringing these guys into it and bringing their specialties into the whole off-road world. Just opens up an avenue for so much opportunity for everybody in the industry.
Yeah, it's interesting at Crandon, which is, you know, 54 years old. I'm from Southern California too, but I started to promote there about 6 years ago. But it became obvious that we were kind of fighting the war of the series, right? There were two series, and we, you know, thanks to Red Bull, we pulled out World Cup Sunday as our own non-points big television thing through Red Bull and NBC, and we basically started creating this West Coast plus East Coast cultural thing, and now we added Ultra 4 to it. You know, in 2019 was our 50th anniversary. We had Kid Rock had a Kid Rock concert there, and we're basically, you know, this morning when I was in the session, listening to the guys, the first session here, we're talking about cross-cultural events that are a party that includes a race, especially something they're going to see like at Las Vegas, you know, the Iowa race. They announced their concert group. You know, it's something that we've been working on too. I think the future for that, the series is tough. You know, we're fortunate, at least I'm fortunate, Matt's fortunate to have like, you know, iconic marquee events in Crandon and the Mint. But, you know, we also realize that every race series needs its Indy 500, right? We realize that at Crandon too. You got to have one big one. You got to win. And Crandon Labor Day is what we built with Red Bull. But the idea was now with the side-by-sides and then bringing Ultra 4 in, you know, adding lights, going night racing, concerts every night. You know, what was great about it for our business was that we went from having, you know, campers there Friday, Saturday, Sunday-ish on Labor Day, maybe Monday morning, to now they're coming Wednesday. and they're bringing their side-by-sides, and they're going on rides with us, and they're, so now we got a concert promote coming in Thursday, Friday night. I think, outside of taking care of our live stream programs and all where the distribution goes, that's where the financial upside is going to be, is in all of that, and creating something that, the racing's still great. I mean, we had 44 races in 3 days at Crandon and Labor Day. That's a pretty busy schedule. But I think, and that's a constant rotation with short courses anyway. It's 15-minute races. But I think that's where we're going.
All right, what did we learn from this group? We learned a lot. From crisis, COVID, came opportunity. And instead of just laying back and going, here we go, that's the industry, you guys took the initiative and took the advantage of the type of events you do, and you carried it on to that next level. Success became accessible because there's so many levels to what you guys are doing, and that's something that all forms of motorsports could learn from. Years ago, when I was asked to be on a SEMA panel and I was asked about the future of racing, I said it was grassroots. It was getting people involved, not having them sit on their butts watching television. That wasn't growth in motorsports. Growth was the grassroots, and you guys have found a way to make it affordable for the lowest levels and for the kids, but also have that upper echelon, almost unlimited series for the guys that have the big budgets, and the manufacturers are loving it too, especially on the east side of things now with Rallycross. And it's not just about the racing, and that's another thing we could really learn. It's about an experience, it's a lifestyle, and I'm tired of overly sanitized racing. I am tired of guys that they have to send each other an apology via text or email after a race. Let them beat and bang, let's have some fun. And that makes it relatable to a lot of fans who have gotten tired of the overly sanitized sport. So a big hand for these folks. Stay here though. My Speed Sport rep. I need my Speed Sport rep here. To the microphone. Guys, stay put. Right there. That one's live. Go ahead.
I will intervene.
Okay.
This is another marquee panel for us. We are very happy we have dirt people here before, but we got the real dirty boys here today, and it was just an honor to have you guys. I think everybody in this audience was completely captivated because of what you guys have done for it. So we want to have you back. I think you guys got something out of it. I know we did. I think one of the things is really, and Dennis summed it up as last thing, is it's the lifestyle aspect of certain segments of our industry that is really translatable, and I don't think it necessarily is in other forms of racing. But, comes to mind is really the off-road space and motocross. And, the families come out, and when they're there, they're having a great time. It's an extended stay. It's a huge investment for what they are doing. And I guess if you go into the other forms of racing, or whether it be quarter midgets or something else on the USAC side or whatever, they're kind of doing it, but it's not necessarily having the additional fun, and I could be wrong in that, but off-road is doing that right. So thank you very much. I think we learned a lot. It was, it's nice to get some new energy in the room and stuff like that. So you're welcome anytime. We took it. So as we get ready to go in for lunch across the hallway, I'm going to do a couple of things here just for housekeeping purposes. We have lunch over there. We're going to have our keynote little fireside chat with Dennis and our keynote speaker, Lori Eberhardt, who will be the star of the room. The belle of the ball will be there. We've got food there, but I'm also going to say we have a very, very full room. And I'm hoping we got enough seats for everybody and food over there. Otherwise, share your food. Don't do that. And I'm hoping we have everybody, but there could be a few surprises. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to be whatever it is. So anyways, we could be excess capacity, and we've added what we can in there. So I apologize in advance for that, to just let you know, but it'll be good. On that note, one more thing. Every year at the Racetrack Business Conference, we make a couple of awards and acknowledgments and stuff like that. And so one of our things that we do is called the Facility of the Year Award, that we have been doing since day one. And prior recipients of that have been basically some of the biggest and best facilities in the country that go and host different times of racing. And, you know, previous recipients of that have been names we're all familiar with: the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Daytona International Speedway, Eldora Raceway, Audubon Country Club. Name it, there's too many that I can't go through and really mention for that. But, you know, a new facility that's really come on the radar, that's been around for a long time, that really is, you know, pretty special and stuff like that. So anyways, for the 2022 award for the Facility of the Year Award, presented by our friends at Speed Sport News, goes to Crandon International Raceway.
Of course, I'm not going to take the stairs, right? That's not going to happen.
Marty, you know, we talk about Field of Dreams, you know, the baseball park built out of a cornfield, and Crandon was always on my bucket list, but I didn't realize till I got there how the Flannerys and you have created really a literal off-road Field of Dreams there out of a dairy farm. And if you haven't had a chance to get there, you have to put it on your bucket list. And see what they've done there. And Marty and I were talking earlier, and he didn't know this was coming, but we were talking about sponsors and eyeballs and all those things. And he says, "No, Joe, it's all about my fans." So Marty gets it, the Flannerys get it, and congratulations. I'm very honored to be able to do this for you. Good job.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Flannery family and the people, the volunteers we've had for 53 years who built this thing basically out of nothing. You know, to be mentioned the same breath, especially in Indianapolis, as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Daytona. You know, I'm kind of new to the facility, not new to this, but, you know, it was always remembering how Indianapolis took care of its history and how it took care of the build-up before the 500, and how it took care of its media and how it took care of its fans. I mean, I learned hard lessons. You know, I was unfortunately the guy who was doing PR for the Infinity Indy motor, which sucked, and it was the worst thing I could have done, but I learned a lot from being in Indianapolis. And I always kind of equated Labor Day. You know, we got Memorial Day in the Midwest and America in Indianapolis, and if you come to Crandon and be part of our downtown parade in a town of 1,200 people in the middle of the North Woods of Wisconsin, and you share, you know, off-road racing with 65,000 fans, it feels the same, and we work hard at that. And there are a lot of neat things about what we're learning here, but we also have to kind of remember, you know, anybody who wants to come, you guys are always welcome to come be a VIP. You're going to enjoy some cheese curds. You're going to enjoy some moonshine, and you're going to enjoy some, you know, our naked sip and slide if you want to do that, which we don't publicly authorize, but it's there. And we're adding Barbie Jeep Racing World Championships next year. But the point is that, you know, I feel honored at this because I always felt off-road motorsports and certain things like the Mint 400, the Baja 1000, Crandon, deserve to at least be in the same breath as some of these other major events because it's been around a long time and it survives, and it's kind of shown the way when sometimes people don't really understand it. But if you're ever there, I can guarantee if any of you people want to come see the best corner in motorsports, turn one, and then you can be right in the infield with me, and the race trucks are literally 3 feet from your face. We actually do that there. It's kind of crazy. And we also have rides in the back of our big dump truck too, so it all works. But thank you, thanks guys at Speed Sport Joe, and really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you guys very much.
Congratulations.
Much appreciated.
All right, that will wrap up our morning sessions for today. Lunch across the way.